Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
I assume Tom.
You've seen this woman in The Chosen, which is an international smash hit that took me 3 years to finally watch, playing Mary, the sister of Martha and Lazarus. She's in 47 Days with Jesus, playing Juliana. Catherine Lidstone, I got it. You know, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Listen, I can't complain. I get to talk to you. We get to talk a little theology. We get to talk about art imitating light and life and art imitating faith. So, I did want to tease you a little something, though. So on your Instagram, you have the quote from Gandhi where he says, "Your Christians are so unlike your Christ." But when we dive into Gandhi's life, Gandhi's not so much like his Vishnu. So, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other in this.
None of us are perfect. No, not one. It's true. I like that quote because I think it helps people understand not to be so religious with your faith and more try to walk the way Jesus did, which is in love. And yes, he has his righteous anger moments, but I think a lot of us can get caught up in things that probably wouldn't matter to Jesus. So that's why that quote's on there.
Listen, I had a bit of a righteous anger moment this past weekend, but my reaction to it was not righteous, so that's why I have to go to confession tonight. I told my friend who is also a priest, I said, Father, I was 95% right, but that last 5% in my reaction to it is what ruined it. So, yeah.
Isn't it sad? And when you break one commandment, you break them all. Isn't that sad?
That's the rule.
The worst. It's impossible.
Kind of like Joseph in the movie 47 Days with Jesus, in the fact that he's trying to do something right for the family by breaking all the rules.
I know. And then we're like, this is not helpful. And then he's like, what? I thought this would be the most helpful. So it's very frustrating for him, I'm sure, but it's frustrating for everybody. So I think that's something we can all relate to.
This one, the costuming is a lot easier. You also don't have to be in the desert and in the wilderness. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I will say wearing normal clothes is pretty fun. Mm-hmm.
But yes, now the men are going to start wearing, linen togas around just because it was fashionable 2,000 years ago, and they breathe better than jeans.
They do, actually. I don't know if you have 100% cotton jeans, maybe they breathe just fine. But I would say linen is a gift. That's a great fabric right there. I enjoy it thoroughly.
Well, the movie's fantastic, and it takes a different perspective, whereas in The Chosen, it's going through the life of Jesus, step by step, chronologically through the order of the Gospels. But in this in this film, you go back and forth between modern life and the contemporary issues we face that really haven't changed except for technology in the way that we previously behaved.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool about this film is that they initially started with the musical portion, right? Because our executive producers are musicians first. And so they have this whole history together of writing beautiful music and pieces, and they have a couple of different musicals that they've written. And they wanted to tell the story with those songs, but they brought in a co-director who had another idea, which is, this is all amazing, but how could we make this relatable to the modern world? And so they wove this beautiful story of a modern day family going through contemporary troubles and issues and stresses and burdens from work and burdens with the burdens, which is their family that they're visiting for Easter. And we get to go on this very, very easy to understand journey of a family that's just stressed out, and they're going through a tough time. And fortunately, they get to go see people who love them dearly. And those people are the grandparents who end up sharing the gospel through this musical storyline down to the grandchildren who just love it and absorb it. And not all of them, but there's a couple of seeds of doubt here and there. But I think that's also very relatable and truthful, that people don't just latch on to things, they have their questions and their curiosities and their doubts and their concerns. And that's good. I think as people of faith, it's a responsible thing to do, to work through all of those and find those answers theologically.
And you've had to do quite a bit of that in your personal life because of all the faith-based films and shows and everything else that you've been working on. What is it like going back, let's say 5 years with the start of The Chosen into now 47 days with Jesus and the personal reflection that you've had to come through?
It's funny. I joined The Chosen a couple years in. I was in season 3 is when I first joined them, but their journey sort of started similarly to mine in faith, which was when they were beginning the show, was actually in a pre-seminary course, which was called Bethel Bible Teaching Class. And my local church was hosting it. And I took it, and it basically takes you through Genesis to Revelation in 2 years. You read the Old Testament the first year, you read the New Testament the second year. And, for anyone who wants extra credit, they give us the Apocrypha over the summer. I can't say I've read all the books of the Apocrypha.
For those of us of the apostolic churches, they're canonical. So
yeah,
for the rest of you in the evangelical churches, you took out 10 books of the Bible. That's on John Wesley. Blame him.
Okay. And also, we'll have to answer on the day of judgment. We'll have to answer why we accepted that. So it's funny. I've been reading this book called The Sefer, which is a book that I think involves probably many of the apocryphal books and maybe some additional writings. I don't know if is Enoch or Jasher inside your apocrypha.
They're part of the Ethiopian tradition. So when the Bible was canonized in 325, it was all 76 books. All right.
Wow.
And they've been found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were part of the Septuagint. People will say it was misinterpretation will say the Catholic Church added it at the Council of Trent, which is impossible because the schism of the church happened in AD 1054, and the Orthodox Church has always used the same canonical texts that the Roman Catholic Church was using up to that. So it is impossible for it have been added at Trent. So whoever came up with that lie, you're going to have to answer for that one on Judgment Day.
Fascinating. No, this is great. I love history, especially about the Word of God. So this is very exciting to learn about. And I've just been reading some of those books in addition to obviously biblical, evangelical canonized. Right. I'm learning all the terms from you right now. But so I think that's been a beautiful spiritual journey that I was on right around when they were filming seasons 1 and 2. And I just happened to bump into a friend of mine that worked on the show in the first season. And he was like, I don't know where this is going to go, how it's going to go. It's just some low budget show shooting out of Texas. We'll see. And I was like, well, that sounds fascinating. And I started to sort of target the show and try to see if there was something I could do on there. And eventually, obviously, we booked the role of Mary of Bethany. But the fun part about that story of my faith journey was I was actually starting a life group. And that's what prompted me to take the Bethel Bible teaching course, which was we were getting a little co-ed group together of people who were just faith-based people who wanted to sort of meet with each other weekly and talk about the issues they were going through and read the word together. And we ended up calling that group Bethany based on a preaching one of our pastors had given us during our membership course. And she highlighted this concept of a place that Jesus would go to rest in between his ministries, and a place of peace and a place of joy and a place of love. And so we were like, that's kind of what we're looking for, because we have church on Sundays, but we need something midweek that's like allowing us to breathe and process through what we're dealing with in the world. And so we created that group, and God is just such a personal God. And the role that I booked on The Chosen was Mary of Bethany. And so it's just to watch the whole thing. You can't write it. You could not write that little journey. And I've been very blessed by that Bethel class, because that's the first time I was able to get through the whole Bible. I had tried many times before. I think as a kid, maybe I did for, some program I was a part of at my church, but I really did it as an adult, and it changed my perspective on the world. It made me look at the text differently. I see it now as a love letter from God to people. And so it's like, if you were to buy a Ferrari tomorrow, or if I wouldn't just buy it and expect that I know everything about it. It's a very expensive vehicle. So I would make sure I knew how to take care of it, and when to get the timing belts changed out, and when to get the oil changed, and when to do all these things to make sure that the maintenance is good. And so for me, when I look at the Bible and the scripture and the word of God, I look at it like I would expect that any human is more valuable than a Ferrari. And so if you have this precious, precious thing, why not read the instruction manual on how to take care of it? So that's how I started seeing the world, was like, wow, we have all these commandments that are to make us healthier and make us happier and make us better. And so let's try to follow these and see, how does this affect our personal lives? How does this affect our satisfaction on a daily basis? And for me, it has been very beautiful to watch the journey. And I feel like I've blossomed as a person, approaching life the way Jesus approaches life, and not in the spirit of the law, but in the spirit of love.
And how has that shaped from that moment into The Chosen and now into 47 Days with Jesus? Because you've worked with Yoshi on The Chosen, who's now playing your husband in this iteration of this film.
It's true. We were both on The Chosen, and funny enough, I think we may have even shared a season, but because of our scenes and who we were acting with, we never got to encounter each other on the set. So when we got to the film set, it was very fun because they were both like, "You're both from The Chosen." And we were like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." So it was a nice way to bond. I think what's cool about, obviously The Chosen has such a large cast, and you're blessed when you get to work with anybody on there. But what's neat is when you get these little moments and pockets outside of set where you can bond and grow with each other, and you have all these shared experiences that maybe you're not even aware of, how you've known the same people for the same amount of years, but you guys were never in a scene together. So we had a lot of fun just bonding on this set and cracking jokes, and it was a good time. Yeah, it was beautiful. We were in Santa Barbara. It was lovely shoot.
Oh, well, how awful for you, Santa Barbara.
I know. It was like gorgeous. It's just amazing. Like, we were on like real farmland, and we're at the Burdon's ranch in this story. So it was a very beautiful, blessed time.
And that's our tie-in now with my friend Father John, who is just outside of Santa Barbara at St. Timothy's.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
that small world.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. You can confess to him later, maybe.
No, then I have to drive up and do it in person. I'm going to go to my local parish.
No, it's not worth it.
It's
Maybe.
worth a 3-hour drive just for that. But he'll be even meaner to me. No, I'm teasing. Father John's fantastic. I've known him since he actually converted.
Oh wow.
Yeah. The thing with this one is that you play a wife and a mother, and I don't know if you're married or engaged or whatever, but there was a couple of day run in theaters, and now in June, Mill Creek is going to be releasing the DVD. What has been the social media reaction to your character, or to people that have been in relationships and marriages that are struggling in finding the balance between serving the church and then serving, the secular interests of keeping the home life alive? Because
yes.
I mean, before you answer,
You're good.
and just to put it in contemporary and ancient times, you were worried it didn't rain, so you couldn't grow crops, so you couldn't feed your family. Now we have the financial burden and the shelves having been barren, and you can't feed your family. So it's just, again, a technology issue, and what has been the response in that regard?
I think it's really touched people and has become very relatable for folks who have watched it. I think married couples specifically have come up to me personally and been like, "You nailed it. Like, that's how I feel. When we go through these tough times, it's just so frustrating." And so they got to witness that in our portrayal, and both parties are frustrated. Joseph is doing what he thinks is the best thing for his family, and Juliana is fighting for what she thinks is the best thing for her family. And so they're both reaching ahead, and thank God for the story of the gospel, and thank God that they have family members that have known them for decades and love them and care for them and can speak truth to their situation that affects them deeply enough that they're able to take a step back and look at it maybe from a third party perspective and understand the ramifications of their actions. And whether or not those are good actions, you just have to realize that it affects other people in ways you wouldn't anticipate. And so how can you be the best parent and the best steward of all the gifts you're given? Your family is a gift. Your job is a gift, right? Your means and your finances are a gift as well. So it's a tough journey. I think that's a dance and a balancing act. And that's a journey of life. Like, that's what married couples go through till the end. And so I think it's a beautiful story that everyone can see themselves in. And I think that's what makes it special and so impactful to the audience.
I had spoken to Luke before, and it was before Easter, and Luke was a lot of fun to chat with. when you get to reflect on your own faith, because everyone's going to talk to you about their own faith journey, and it seems that like everyone's giving their life confessional to you. Oh my God, in this one scene you did this, whether it's 47 days or something else that you've worked on that was faith-based, and there is that moment of like, I just want to get out of Albertsons or Kroger's or wherever you live, that's the main grocery store over there. Like, how do you find the time to give give them that chat and their confession or testimonial, depending on the language you want to use, and still be able to have that personal life as well?
Well, I think every moment is a gift, and as I was saying before, it's not written by you. So when you're in that Albertsons or whatever store it is, and you're trying to get something done, and someone approaches you, I think it's really important to remember that there's a reason they're talking to you. And yes, it might start with, oh, this is so relatable, I recognize you from this or whatever. But maybe there's a deeper meaning for the conversation. And, no one's perfect, right? We're always going to be stressed out, running around the world and trying to handle a million things at once. And then, a conversation pops up at a time that's like, what? I don't have time for this. But I just feel like humans are so valuable, and we have to honor each other. Because you just don't know what's behind someone. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what season of their life they're in. You don't know what stresses they have that you'll never see on the surface. And so if you can be a moment of encouragement for someone else, that could be life-changing for them. And I'm not talking about like a celebrity talking to another human being. I'm talking about a human connecting with a human in a time of need and a time of strife. And that's really what it is. Like, we are all here to uplift and help each other. And unfortunately, we get involved in our own needs and desires that we can forget that. And at the end of the day, like, humans are supposed to treat each other with love. And that's really what it is. So yeah, do we have appointments we have to get to? Sure. But is the truth more important than those moments sometimes? Yeah.
I did want to ask one more thing about the film, because I love talking about your journey and your experience in all of this. But we want to remind everybody that Emilio Palame, I hope I don't butcher Emilio's last name, is also co-director and co-writer, who's playing the grandfather in this film.
Yes.
So he's wearing way too many hats. What's it also like working with him as part of like not only production, but part of the talent as well?
Yeah, there's this beautiful scene that unfortunately I don't think it made the final cut, which is so sad because it's so much fun to shoot with him, and it was a beautiful, tender moment. And I remember it was like one of our first scenes, and the whole crew was setting up such a beautiful set decoration for Easter, and it was just this nice little moment between the father-in-law and Juliana. And that's one of my favorite memories from set. And then other beautiful moments where just like people would break out into musical song, and because there's so many talented people on set that, and we all knew the same classic standard ballads. And so we would just in between camera takes, we would just be breaking out into musicals numbers. But yeah, Emilio is a multifaceted, multi-talented human being. And so for him when he wrote these songs, even, he was going through a very difficult time in his life that he just felt this rush that was like, these songs have to reach the world. They have to get out there somehow. And of course, now we know that this beautiful story was woven around them, and we have this great film we get to talk about and share with each other. But yeah, it really, I feel he was one of the is impeti a word? I don't know. He was one of our,
that one we'll have to look up,
beginning moments, the burgeoning, growing moments of this thing germinating from seed to reality. So Emilio's sort of one of the rocks that it was built on.
And there's another tie-in between The Chosen and 47 Days with Jesus, is that for some reason, everyone is only casting Lebanese guys named Jonathan to play the Lord.
Is that so? I didn't see there was like a Passover special, and I think Yoshi got to play Jesus. And is that I don't know.
So Jonathan Byram, who plays Jesus in 47 Days, is Lebanese. Jonathan Roumie, who very much confuses me because
that's right. Yeah.
But his last name is Roumie, and in Arabic it translates essentially to one who is Orthodox, but he converted to Catholicism. So I'm like, John, you got to pick one. Your name indicates one thing.
Uh-oh.
You're doing something else. Come on, man.
Yeah. We'll have to harass him next time I see him. I'll be like, Mr. Ex-Orthodox, what's going on here? Tell me everything.
It's because their services are shorter than ours. That's why.
Yeah, I know. That is really a thing. Like a lot of people go to church because they're like, you get in and out in an hour. I'm like, what? Where's the Holy Spirit? Like, what do you mean you get to go play your golf thing at 9:30? Like, what? Can we just worship the Lord? Anyway, I don't know. That's just funny.
But it's for a town like Hollywood that's very tough.
Mhm.
And, it's not called the Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Hollywood Babylon, because everybody's playing Monopoly and Go Fish.
Mhm.
How do you navigate that balance between there's the world of temptation, which we all give into to a certain extent, and then people go off the complete deep end, and then still trying to find the balance of, what's true? Like, how do you find the balances, what's true versus what you want, how far you want your career to go?
That's a great question. I don't know if I know the answer to that yet, but I do know that I can't do things that are against my own moral compass. I just can't do it. And if it doesn't tell a story that I think is bringing light and encouragement and beauty and grace and mercy and love to the world, or joy and humor, then for me, it's not worth it. There are so many projects you could be a part of, and there are so many stories that deserve to be told. Those are the ones I want to be doing. And so, it's been a dark, journey. Certainly, there have been times when, you feel like your head's against a wall, and you're like, how do I do anything? And why is this so hard? And I think that's true for any business. Certainly, we live in a very influential town, and the things that we do here reach the rest of the world. And so I think that's even more of a reason to really discern what stories are worth your time, because there are young people coming up in my family that I want to encourage. I don't want to weaken them. I don't want to give them the wrong ideas. I want to give them the right ideas. And so for me, it's all about, what is the message you're sharing with the world? What views of possible are you giving other people? And how can you be a light in their lives? So I think if you have a deep calling and purpose, it is easier to navigate, but simultaneously it's more difficult to navigate, because now you stand for something and you won't be turned over by everything, right? I'm botching that phrase too, but it's the phrase of like, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And so I think it's really important to come out here with a vision and a purpose. And even in the hard times, if that means you have to go get a donut delivery job, or you have to work at your acting studio for a little while to make ends meet, then you do those things, because you have hopefully a vision that's going to carry you through the tough times. And if it comes to a point where you feel like you're not finding what you're looking for, that's when you put on the producer hat, and that's when you put on the writer hat, and that's when you decide, what I'm seeing and what's being presented to me is just not good enough. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm doing something that's good enough, and that's better, and that's inspiring and encouraging and enlightening. And that's, I think, what Hollywood really is about. Unfortunately, we get caught up in all the other things, like the glitz and the glamour, and, but I'm going to make so much money on this job. And it's like, that verse that says, what does a man gain if he gains the whole world, but he gives up his soul?
And it is a cautionary tale.
It sure is.
Catherine, I'm going to leave you with this, since we went a few minutes over, and I know you have to get to your next interview, so please apologize to them on my behalf. The DVD comes out in June, and I know everybody loves streaming, but I love the physical media because it's on my shelf. It's a constant reminder that it's there. It's not that I have to scroll through a million things and go, oh yeah, I need to watch that one. Why do we need to pick up the Dove-approved 47 Days with Jesus DVD this June?
Oh my gosh, you should do it, because it will bring you joy and light. And I love our film. Obviously, I'm very biased, but I just, the whole concept of this, when it reached my desk and until now in the fruition of it, has just been so fun. And it's like such an engaging way to reach people with the gospel. and it's a family friendly movie. Like anyone can go see this and be encouraged and enjoy the music and just get lost in history, these stories from 2000 years ago that are so mystical and wistful, and it's just great. It's just a fun film. And yeah, I just encourage everybody to pick up a copy of the DVD and check it out.
Fantastic. Catherine, thank you so much for your time. Where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you?
I am on all the socials. I'm on Twitter at Kate Lidstone, Cate, and I'm on Instagram at Catherine Lidstone. That's Catherine with a C. And I'm on Facebook. I think it's like facebook.com/Catherine Lidstone official, maybe. And then, yeah, I'm on all the things. I'm everywhere. So, and my website is just catherinelidstone.com, as well as YouTube. It's just like youtube.com/Catherine Lidstone, So
Fantastic. Catherine,
there you
thank
go.
you so much for your time. I really
I have
appreciate
worship
it.
covers that I post.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a joy. And thanks
Pleasure
for all
is
the
all.
history. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
you know,
Cheers. Have a good one. God
you
bless.
got it. And the irony is not lost on me that I need to go to convention confession while wearing a Legion t-shirt to exercise these demons. So,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we gotta like black little gaff tape over the lead. You know what I mean? I don't know, black it out.
well, no, I
Or you
like the
could come,
rugby
you could
team,
come
so
to
I got to
Trinity.
kind
We
of,
won't judge
pay
you
the
for it.
respect to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, enjoy. Thank you so much.